Arizona sports. Breaking news.
This just coming down from Chris Haynes. The Phoenix Suns have notified Chris Paul that he will be waived.
This is waived and then re-signed at the vet's minimum. Have I not said this forever?
Well, do we just waived?
It says the Phoenix Suns have notified star Chris Paul that he will be waived, making the future Hall of Famer one of the top free agents this offseason.
Doesn't say waived and re-signed,
Okay.
just says waived. Just says waived. So we don't know if that's waived and stretched or waived and they want to re-sign him.
Okay. I'm going to try to find out here.
Yeah,
but
slow down, because it could be one of two things now, both of which we've talked about an awful lot. We've talked about waiving Chris Paul. He's $15 million, bringing him back at the veterans minimum. That's another 3. Chris Paul's on your roster for 18. Or we've talked about waiving and stretching Chris Paul. He counts only $3 million against your salary cap.
Yes.
And now you're under the tax, and you can start doing a few more things when it comes to signing other players. I would imagine you're going to start working on some details, and we'll start getting some more details. But him getting waived is now one step. We don't know what the other step is, right? It's part of the equation. It's not the whole equation. Thoughts?
Yes. My thought is that if you would have said to me what's the most likely scenario, I had said all along, he's never playing for $30 million. It's never going to happen. And you can't trade him because nobody wants to trade for a beaten up, broken down 39-year-old point guard. It was either waive and stretch or waive. But the only way you could keep him on the roster is waive and sign at the vet's minimum. And that was their preference. Their preference was not waive and stretch. Their preference was waive and re-sign at the vet's minimum. Now, the problem with that becomes, does Chris want to stay at the vet's minimum here? Or does he say, I want to go to the Lakers, I want to go to the Clippers, my family's in LA, I want to go home? Because now you put the ball in his court. I am not surprised at all. There had to be a decision by later this month on that. I think it was
28th? I believe it was June 28th, where his full salary would have vested, and he would have gone from $15.8 million to like $30.8 million. And I think June 28th was the day that they had to make the decision by. So this is, okay, here's the surprise. Okay, I'm not surprised by this news. I'm surprised that it happened now. What did it say, June 7th? I mean, we're still 3 weeks out from when this decision had to be made. Right? When they had to determine whether they were going to pick up the other guaranteed portion of Chris's contract, they did this well in advance of the deadline. We're waiting more information. I know you're trying to get more information.
Yes.
And hopefully when we have something to pass along, I know when we have something to pass along to you, we will pass it along. But this is a very incomplete picture right now we're looking at when it comes to Chris.
It's one of two options.
It's at this point, it's either he's coming back on the veterans minimum or he's not coming back. And you're waiving and stretching him, and you're stretching that salary cap hit. And for those unfamiliar with the waive and stretch, you're a casual NBA fan, you don't understand. Mm-hmm. The NBA gives teams the opportunity to take a contract like Chris, and you can waive that contract and stretch out the money that you owe him over 4 years, 5 years. In this case, you can do it with 5 with Chris Paul. So the $15 million that he's owed, you can stretch that out over a 5-year time span if you're the Suns, and have him count under the cap only $3 million each year over the next 5.
Yeah, when they did the contract, and I remember being told when they did the contract, they were very surprised that Chris wanted to add the 4th year on. It was none of it was guaranteed, but Chris wanted to be able to say, and his agents wanted to be able to say, that he signed a 4-year, $130 million deal. They wanted the glam of what that looked like, knowing full well that he was never going to get the 4th year, and the chances of him getting the 3rd year were actually slim. So it was really a 2-year deal. Like, they valued him. They said, okay, this is what he's worth in the open market. But instead of giving him over 2 years, they gave it to him over 3 because they gave that partial guarantee. Because they actually pushed. They pushed. He was worth $60 million over 2 years, I think is what it was worth. $60 million over 2 years. But what they did is they spread like 15 or 75, $75 million over 2 years. So 30.
And then another 15.
But the 15, like in a regular contract, that 15 would have been on the first 2 years. Instead of making 30, you would have made 37.5 and then 37.5. But they did it 30 because it helped them with the cap and the tax. So he did the 30, 15. But that 15, that's this year, was valued, the valuation on that was in the first 2 years. So it just made sure that Chris was going to get his money no matter what. So when the Suns signed him to that contract, there wasn't really a plan that he was going to be. It gave him an option to keep him, but they never expected that they were going to keep him in this year.
Now, does this mean that Chris's time with the Suns is done?
He may have played his last game with the Phoenix Suns. It's possible.
But we don't know for sure. Because if he's waived and he re-signs here,
at the vet's minimum,
he could be back. And that's a scenario that we have talked about. You have brought up many, many times here on the show. Waive him, bring him back at the veterans minimum, and he would count $18 million against your cap if you feel like you can't do any better than Chris Paul on the market. Or is because the other option would have been to bring him back at his full salary at the $31 million and try to trade him. The problem with that is that while you could have hypothetically traded Chris to wherever you wanted to, you probably feel like you owe it to Chris to trade him to a team that he wants to go to. I think Chris has earned that. Certainly, that was what allowed the Suns to get Chris in the first place from Oklahoma City. They went to him and said, where do you want to go? I want to go to Phoenix. Okay, go to Phoenix, right? The Suns probably would feel like they owe Chris that same level of respect given where he stands in the NBA. So the Suns, could have tried to trade him. I don't know what they would have gotten in return, and certainly it would have been very limited, the teams they could have traded him to out of limited respect to Chris.
Yes.
Look, now Chris is in the open market. Now Chris can go wherever he wants to go.
I don't think that it's much of a market. I think it's Clippers, Lakers, or Suns.
Well, I know, but it's going to be veterans minimum probably no matter where it is, I would imagine.
Well, definitely here.
And if he wants to go home, if he wants to go play with the Lakers, or the Clippers. I don't make it just about the Lakers, but LeBron might have just like the guy who might be the most bummed today in all of the NBA, Kyrie Irving. Because now LeBron might be calling up Rob Pelinka and saying, we don't need Kyrie. Just go get Chris.
For $2.8 million.
Go get Chris for $2.8 million.
Doesn't even affect our cap.
Yeah, just go get him.
Doesn't even affect our salary cap.
He'll come home. He gets to play with me. He gets to play with AD.
Could he get more? Could he get a biannual, a mid-level, a team that has something like that? I don't know what the Lakers and Clippers have, but it's possible that he could turn that into a little bit more money.
I don't know what mechanisms they have, but where would he want to go that isn't LA? Where would he want to go?
I don't think anywhere.
I don't think anywhere either.
I don't think anywhere.
Unless there's a team that just really thinks he's the missing piece and puts him over the top, I don't think there's anywhere else he'd want to go. But Los Angeles, I can't say that for sure. I don't know Chris that well to know him well enough but I know he flies home to L.A. a lot. I know that even when he was here, he was going to L.A. a lot.
Yeah.
To see his family, see his kids. Yeah, he's close to them, right.
And that's what he liked about Phoenix when he left Oklahoma City. I'm close to home. That's a short flight. It's a quick flight. You get up in the air but you have a drink, and by that time you're on your way down. I mean, it's a quick flight. He liked that about Phoenix.
But what we don't know, and what we still don't know, waived with the possibility of being re-signed, or is he waived and being stretched? If he's waived and stretched, the Suns cannot bring him back.
Can't.
They cannot. So if that's the second part of this equation that we come to learn, then we will know, in fact, that Chris Paul's time with the Phoenix Suns has come to an end. If he's been stretched,
it's over.
It's over. He's done. He's not coming back.
And they saved $27 million on the cap.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Everybody's trying to John Hollinger does a good job, had a story today, and his prediction was that Chris Paul would not be waived.
I was very surprised by that prediction.
Because me and you had said there's no chance that he comes back at $30 million.
Yeah.
I know this. There was no chance that the Suns were going to pay him $30 million to be their point guard. Not at 39 years old, with the injuries. It just wasn't going to happen. It was always waive and stretch or waive and come back for the vets minimum.
If he's not back, who's the point guard next year? Who is it?
I gave you a list of 5 guys. You want me to go over them again?
Well, it could be one.
I'll go over them again with you.
Go over them. But I don't know if it's guaranteed to be one of these guys.
No, but this is the list that I have. I can tell you what I have.
Because one of them's got $50 million left on a contract. Go ahead, real quick, because we got to take a break.
Kobe White.
Okay.
Dennis Schroeder.
Okay.
Gabe Vincent. Peyton Pritchard. Malcolm Brogdon.
Okay, Brogdon's the one that I like, but I just don't know if you can get.
I had Jay Noel in there, too.
Okay, Jalen Noel from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Interesting. Very, very interesting. One more from Chris Haynes. He just tweeted this out. Chris Paul plans to play several more years and is eager to help a team contend for a championship, sources say. That's according to Chris Haynes, who I would assume is getting that directly from Chris Paul.
All right.